The Issues. I'm Pat Hall with my co-host and good friend Jim Dunlap. And today we're very lucky to have the third of the gubernatorial candidates that we promised you have. It wasn't March Madness, it wasn't Ides of March, it was just smart on our part to actually do this. We have State Senator Randy Brogdon, Republican from Owasso, and who has given up, as Jim said, a safe seat to run for governor.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me to be with you. But yes, I'm up for re-election in my Senate seat this year, but I felt a different direction. So, you know what, we really had to think about that because it was a safe seat. I may not even had a race to run. If I did, I think I would have been probably relatively an easy re-election contest. But I have been pulled in a different direction, so we're out on the campaign trail statewide running for governor.
Well, and for full disclosure, I had the honor of serving with Senator Brogdon in the state Senate, and I know of his first race in Owasso, the former mayor. This is not your career. This is not what you started out. You have never, and we actually had to recruit you to come run for this, and it's a sacrifice to serve in public office. You're a small businessman from Owasso, correct?
Yeah, and it is a huge sacrifice, but I have spent my adult career building a couple of different businesses, both of them very successful. But I wanted to have an opportunity to serve my community. You know, my wife and I, we've been married for 37 years, and we've always served in many different capacities, whether we were coaching Little League or wrestling teams or serving our church, different things like that. But when we became empty nesters, I wanted to reach out to my community more, and that's when I ran for the city council, won that race. Eventually, I was elected as mayor of Owasso, and my predecessor, Grover Campbell, a great conservative that held the Senate District 34 for many, many years, termed out, and so I was elected to the state Senate. But now we're off in another direction, and my heartbeat is to help bring some very practical solutions on how we can restore our founding principles in this state. And that's the mission that I'm on today as I run for governor.
You know, I told Jim I was going to ask you this question because I've been fascinated by it. I honestly expected you to maybe jump out there before, when the time was still able to actually switch to an independent and run as an independent. And so this is your opportunity to say why you didn't do that.
Yeah. The Republican Party, I believe in it deeply. Now, I will share with you and your listeners, Pat, and Jim, that the Republican Party has veered off course. We have veered off of what I believe to be our constitutional principles, the values that not only was our nation founded on, but what the Republican Party was founded on. Very simply, those are the ideas of limited government, personal responsibility, and the expansion of freedom. Now, I still believe in those values and those principles, and I am a constitutional conservative, first and foremost. I am a registered Republican, and I would never even consider running on anything other than on the Republican ticket, because the principles of the Republican Party very closely mirrors what I believe.
Well, and to that point, here in Oklahoma, the ship that's gaining passengers right now is the Republican Party.
That's right.
And Democrats are losing them because I think of the national scene. We talked about that last week with General Drew Edmondson on the show. But there's another issue out there in this primary and in this general called the Tea Party.
Sure.
And I know you've been very close to those people. Right. Do you see a surge coming there? And do you see that surge helping you in your primary election? Because that's your big battle right now, to be up front.
Yeah, the primary is the battle. And, you know, it's kind of like the old David and Goliath syndrome. I realize I'm facing the giant. When I entered the race back in April, after many, many months of prayer and seeking wise counsel, and I didn't just walk into this one day and think, hey, I think I'd like to be governor. This was a very methodical decision that I made. But I understand that I'm up against the giant, but I remember the Bible story that it only took one little smooth stone to bring that giant down. And I'm talking about the status quo. I'm not talking about an individual.
Right.
I'm talking about the status quo. And you know, we have what we have in our state and in our nation today because the status quo is rarely challenged. And Jim and Pat, both of you have watched me for the last 8 years, and you know that I'm not afraid, number one, of a fight, but I'm not afraid to
Oh, you've
stand-
told us no plenty of times.
Absolutely.
I've told both of you no.
I got a few yeses there.
That's right.
Probably more than I did.
I had to prove my point.
But I'm not interested in just having a fight. I stand on principles, and I'm not afraid of the principles that I stand on. Anytime that I lean and stand on constitutional authority, I'm on pretty safe ground here in the state of Oklahoma.
And I'd like to follow with I think your answer to why you didn't switch was excellent, and I wanted you to have that opportunity.
Thank you.
And but you're trying to get people engaged in the political
Right.
process that are mad.
Yeah.
In many cases, not all of the people that support you, but some of the new people. A lot of them are Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are independents, and I think this race this time is going to be decided by the independents. To a great extent. How do you get them to register and get involved and support you in the primary?
Well, of course, the state of Oklahoma, we have closed primaries. If you're going to vote in a Republican primary, you have to be a Republican. If you're going to vote in a Democrat primary, you have to be a registered Democrat. So, but let me make something very clear. The Tea Parties and the 9/12 movement, it is not held by the Republicans.
Right.
There are plenty of Republicans. There are plenty of conservative Democrats.
Right.
There are constitutionalists. There are libertarians. There are people that think and believe, by and large, like the majority of Oklahomans. You know, I've had it up to here with the political partisanship, gamesmanship. I really don't care. I am concerned about the future for my kids. And my goal is to reach out to all of the people who believe in limited government, personal responsibility, and if they truly want to expand freedom and hand freedom down to the next generation, I assure you, I am the candidate that will help facilitate that.
A little bit back to Pat's point, I see where he's going. Is your campaign directly trying to recruit people to re-register?
Absolutely.
It has to be part of your campaign.
It is. We have a very dedicated, methodical way that we're going about re-registering. And, you know, as I travel the state, I talk to all kinds of different groups. I don't talk just to Republican groups. As a matter of fact, I will be speaking here in a couple of weeks at a function that has nothing to do with the Republican Party. I speak to the Rotaries and the Chambers and the Lions Clubs, and you have all a mix of people there. So, but here's what I know. My message resonates with the people. The days of government control, the days where we think that, well, government has got to help me on pretty much every decision that we need to make, like the Obamacare situation that we've been in recently. The citizens of Oklahoma, by and large, despise that today. And you bet I'm going to do everything I can do to capitalize upon that, because those people, the liberty lovers, those who are wanting to pass freedom down and that think just like me, I am reaching out to them and I am encouraging and urging them desperately to change their registration and vote for me in the primary. This race, I believe the governor's race, will be won or lost in the primary for the Republican Party this year.
When's that? Just real quick, we have about 30 seconds before our first break. When is that deadline to re-register? I'm just going to ask that so they know in the viewing public.
July the 27th is our primary, and a month before that you have...
So around June 27th, you have to
register
register within the party you plan to vote on in that primary.
Yeah, the independents and you know, my district has one of the highest independents of any other Senate district. I think we're at about 14%, so we're working around the state to re-register.
Well, and we want to get back to that because I know something about statewide campaigns and talk about you're going to break the mold versus TV versus grassroots.
Right.
And we'll be right back with Cox Communication Inside the Issue after this break.
Welcome back to Inside the Issues. I'm Jim Dunlap along with my co-host Pat Hall, and today we're joined by gubernatorial candidate, State Senator Randy Brogdon, Republican out of Owasso. And Senator Brogdon, I want to ask you real quick, we talked about how your campaign's going before the break. You know, when the first polling numbers came out 8 months ago, the name Randy Brogdon wasn't very well known out there.
It was known at the Capitol.
For those of us inside the issues. Yeah, exactly.
Because I've been on your show before.
Right, well, but you know, now you're getting a little traction out there, and I'm seeing your numbers really increase. What do you attribute that to, and what do you see coming up in the next 3 months?
Yeah, well, first of all, let me tell you that when I decided to enter this race, it wasn't because of the polls.
Name ID.
Yeah, a name ID. You see, I've spent the last 30 years building my businesses. No one around the state of Oklahoma should know me unless I have installed an air conditioning unit for them at some point.
Right.
I've spent my life, like most individuals, minding my own business, building my businesses, taking care of my family, going to church, playing t-ball, doing just the normal everyday stuff.